Hello, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Week 2's in the books. I had a good week 2. On to week 3. It's a short season. We got to move quickly. We got to get to work. So the first game I'm taking a look at today is between Memphis and Florida State. So I have Memphis as the top 10 ranked offense in college football, below average defense. Florida State's really above average in both, offense being slightly better than defense. Both the teams tend to play a slightly below average pace of play. So with this combined, I like Memphis +6 at -112. I think their top ranked offense and the slower pace of the game is going to allow them to stay in the game and lose by less than 6 points. So moving on to the next pick, where I'm taking a look at Coastal Carolina versus Temple. So Coastal Carolina is an above average offense, a slightly below average defense. Temple's really below average in both. Not a good last couple of weeks for Temple. Their offense is slightly better than their defense, but not by very much. They tend to play a quick game and they tend to throw the ball more. So looking at Coastal Carolina versus Temple, I like Coastal Carolina here at -17.5 at -108. I think they're a much better team than Temple. Temple's ability to play the game quickly is going to hurt them, and I think that Coastal Carolina will be able to put up points and prevent Temple from scoring points. So the next game I'm taking a look at in the state of Florida is Ball State versus Miami, Florida. So Miami, Florida is a much better team. We know this. Not much is expected of Ball State. Both the teams tend to play kind of slow. So my pick in this game is Ball State +36.5 at -110. I think the slow pace will allow Ball State to stay in the game and not lose by more than 36 points. So the next game I'm taking a look at is Nevada versus Minnesota. So Nevada is a very weak team, ranked near the bottom of both offense and defense. Minnesota is really slightly below average in offense, but they are above average in defense. Both the teams tend to play a slower paced game. Both of them tend to favor the run. So despite this fact, I took Minnesota -14.5 at -110. I think the defense of Minnesota is going to really prevent Nevada from scoring a lot of points. I think their offense against a weaker Nevada defense will allow them to score points. I think the game really favors Minnesota in this particular matchup. So the next game I'm taking a look at is West Virginia at Pitt. So West Virginia has a top 30 offense. They have around an average defense. Pitt's around an average offense. They have a slightly better than average defense. The tempo-wise, it should average out to be a slightly slower than normal game. West Virginia tends to favor the run more. And for that reason, I took Pitt and West Virginia under 60 at -110 at Caesars. So 60.5 is a relatively high total. I think that's based off the West Virginia offense, which is better than the Pitt defense, but I think the slow pace and the fact that they favor the run is going to keep the game under the total. So the next game I'm taking a look at is Troy versus Iowa. So Troy is a weak team, both offense and defense. Iowa has a weak offense. They tend to have a very good defense. Both teams tend to play slow. Iowa tends to favor the run. So with Iowa, they normally have these games every week where people aren't really scoring very many points, and when they're not scoring a lot of points, it favors a big underdog on the spread. So I took Troy +22.5, and I took that at -110, and I took that at Caesars. So moving on to the state of Florida, I'm taking a look at the game between Florida International University and Florida Atlantic. So both these teams are weak teams. The Florida Atlantic offense is worse than the Florida International defense. The Florida Atlantic defense is better than the Florida International offense. However, both these teams play very quickly, and they also tend to favor the pass. And because of this, they have a low total at 44, so I think it's going to come in under that number. So my pick in this game is Florida International University and Florida Atlantic over 44, and I took that at Caesars. So the next game I'm looking at is UTEP versus Liberty. So UTEP's a weak team, both in offense and defense. Liberty has an okay offense. They have a weak defense. Both the teams tend to play slow. Liberty especially tends to favor the run a lot more. And because of this, they have a decently high total at 57.5. So I took under 57.5 at -110, and I took that at Caesars. So sticking around in Texas, I'm taking a look at UTSA versus the University of Texas. So the University of Texas is a very good team. They have the second ranked offense. They have a top 10 defense. UTSA is below average in both. UTSA tends to play fast. Texas tends to play slightly above average. And for that reason, I took UTSA and Texas over 53.5. 53.5 is around an average total. I think the offense of Texas will allow them to score points. I think that the fast pace will lead this to being an over game. So that's what I took at Caesars. So looking at the game between Jacksonville State and Eastern Michigan. So Eastern Michigan and Jacksonville State, neither are particularly good teams. Jacksonville State has a weaker defense. Eastern Michigan has a weaker offense. Eastern Michigan is closer to average in defense versus these scores. Jacksonville State tends to play quick. They tend to favor the run. So looking at this game, because of the quickness that Jacksonville State plays, the fast tempo, I took two picks in this game. I took Eastern Michigan -2 at -110. I took that at Bet365, and I took Jacksonville State and Eastern Michigan over 48.5, and I took that at FanDuel. So moving to the state of Tennessee, looking at the game between Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee. So again, neither of these teams are particularly good. Western Kentucky has a better offense than defense. Middle Tennessee also has a better offense than defense. They both tend to be quick playing teams, and they also tend to throw the ball a lot. So looking at this game, I'm taking Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee over 50 Kentucky 4 at -110, and I'm taking that DraftKings. So if you missed my other two videos, I run a quantitative process every week that uses these four inputs: offense, defense, tempo, and run bias to calculate the most optimal college football picks each week. If you find this helpful, if this is useful for you, like and subscribe to the video so we can keep in touch and work together this season and make it a great one. So with that said, finally, I'm going to take a look at a football game between two good teams. I'm taking a look at the game between Kentucky and Georgia. So Georgia's a top 5 team, both offense and defense. They tend to play a slower game. Kentucky is above average offense. They have a very good defense. They tend to also play very slow. Both these teams tend to favor the pass a little bit. So with that said, I think the slow tempos will lead it to be a slower, lower scoring game. I don't think Kentucky's that much far behind, so I took Kentucky plus 24 at -110, and I took that at Bet365. So continuing on, looking at the game between New Mexico and Auburn. So New Mexico's a weak team, especially on defense. Auburn's above average in both, especially on defense. The pace should be a little bit slower than average, and both the teams tend to favor the run. With that said, they have a decently high total at 59.5. So in the game between New Mexico and Auburn, I took under 59.5 at -110, and I took that at Bet365. So then I'm staying in the South, and I'm taking a look at Toledo versus Mississippi State. So Toledo is a weak team on offense. They're a better team on defense. Mississippi State's above average in both. The pace is around average. The run is slightly more for Toledo. Mississippi State tends to pass more. Despite this, they have a higher total at 56.5, so I took that under at -105, and I took that at ESPN Bet. So moving out west, I'm taking a look at Indiana versus UCLA. So Indiana's offense is better than UCLA's offense. Their defense is slightly worse. The team's around average in pace, but because UCLA is at home and they have the stronger defense, I took UCLA plus 2.5 at +105. So going to the state of Colorado in the game between University of Colorado and Colorado State University. So both these teams, one thing to note is they both play very quick. Their offenses are better than their defenses, and they tend to be passing teams. And for that reason, I took Colorado and Colorado State over 59.5. They play fast. They throw the ball. Their offenses are better than their defenses. I think that'll lead to it being a higher scoring game. So then returning to the state of Texas, I'm taking a look at Rice versus Houston. So neither of these are very good teams. Their offenses are both better than their defenses. Their paces together will tend to be around an average game, but they both throw the ball a lot. I think Houston's offense has underperformed these past couple weeks. I've had the overs. They haven't come in. This is a low total again at 42.5. I think the fact that they're throwing the ball a lot against very weak defenses, I think they'll have a higher scoring game than 42.5. So I took that at Bet365. So then I'm going to the game between Brigham Young and Wyoming. So Brigham Young's a much better team. This is obvious. Their offense is better than their defense. With Wyoming, the situation's flipped. Wyoming tends to play slow. Brigham Young tends to play in the middle. They tend to throw the ball a lot. So because of the weakness of the defense of Wyoming against Brigham Young's offense, they have a very low total at 39.5. With these low totals, really anything can go wrong for either team, and it'll come in over that number. So for that reason, I took Brigham Young and Wyoming over 39.5 at -110, and I took that at Bet365. So going to the state of California, the game between San Diego State and California. So San Diego State's a weaker team all around. Their defense is not that much worse than California's. San Diego State also tends to play slow and favor the run. I think it'll be a slower paced game, and with the fact that the defense isn't that far behind, I think that San Diego will be able to stay in the game. So I took San Diego State plus 18 at -110, and I took that to Caesars. And the last game that I'm taking a look at this week is New Mexico State versus Fresno State. So New Mexico State's a weaker team. They tend to play one of the slowest paces in the entirety of college football. So looking at Fresno State, they're better in offense than they are in defense. They tend to play slightly faster than average. They tend to favor the pass. So because the defenses are not that much different and New Mexico State tends to play slow, I took New Mexico State plus 20 at -105, and I took that at ESPN Bet. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great week. Bye.